As I've said many times before, whenever you have slow sales, there's always an answer. And I've encountered at least 3 items that had this problem, and maybe some of you out there have the same issue. So let's talk about that here on the other side. So without any further ado, let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is John with Flippin' Ain't Easy, and I haven't made a whole lot of videos lately other than the live streams. Haven't really, the last week and a half, haven't really felt very good at all, guys, and it's kind of something that kind of goes away and comes right back. And after the live last night, I got hit with just the biggest dizzy spell, and Jenna caught pretty much whatever I had. So we're dealing with it right now, but it isn't that bad. But it's just enough to put you into a funk where it's a little bit more difficult to get through the day as we normally would, because we're just not feeling it. Not a lot of energy. But you know what? That time of the year, usually October, at least for us here in Vegas, October is when we transition from the hot weather to the cooler weather, and you know, generally you're bound to feel something. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with. So my apologies for not getting a lot of content out there. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about was something that I realized. You know, when we talk about how there's always an answer, whether it's what you sell, all the way to could be just a glitch that's directly affecting your ability to sell an item or multiple items. Well, in my particular case, I received an email from a potential buyer. And the potential buyer said, look, and it was a drain. It's one of those shower drains where you can insert the tile into. It's like a 48-inch shower drain. We get those every once in a while. And I had it priced. I've sold these before. I had it priced pretty competitively. And this person sent me a message and said, look, I received your offer, but why is your shipping so high? And what I do is I do calculated shipping. As you guys know, you guys see here, I have a lot of things I just picked up over the last weekend here. And as you can see, these are really larger items. These items are larger than what is usually ideal to sell on eBay, but it works for me. And because of that, I have my shipping policies set up for FedEx. And FedEx Ground if it's commercial, FedEx Home if it's residential. And my discounts are set up really good where I receive probably about 15 to 25% better discounts on my labels than what eBay gives us with their discounted rates. So the buyer is still getting a discounted quote when they're looking at my items. So when they're clicking into the listing, they see the price plus they see what the shipping is. And the shipping that they see is based on what zip code they're registered at. So when they're logged into their account, the buyer, they see the shipping quote for calculated based on their address. And even if they're buying for someone else, they won't see that quote until they plug in the new address when they're checking out. And, you know, which is not the case here, but a lot of times you get people that'll come to you and say, well, why did you quote me $25 shipping, but now it's saying 30? And that's usually because they're putting in a different address than what they're registered for. But I digress on that. In this particular case, I have a 51-inch long package for this 48-inch drain. And the box is literally 51 by 5 by 5. So it's just long more than anything else. And in the past, I've had no issue selling these items. I think I've sold maybe a half a dozen of these drains using FedEx, using calculated, and I've never had anyone mention anything, and it's just the way it is. I may have overpaid or overcharged and overpaid on shipping all this time because I went in, and you can go into the listing, and we're going to go over it right now, but I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. But you can go in and plug in a zip code to see exactly what it's going to cost, at least for the buyer on the eBay end of things, for that label, depending on how you have your business policies set up. I choose to give my shipping discount to my buyer. So So I know a lot of people, they don't. I think that's a big mistake. I think you're losing potential sales. If your ambition is to try to make money off of the shipping that the buyer is paying through the eBay system, I think you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So that's possibly one thing that you could be doing that's impeding your sales. That is, buyers that are price sensitive. And right now, I've been encountering a lot of buyers who seem to be looking for a deal. They're looking at shipping. And if they see that your item is going to cost more than someone else for the same item, well, they're probably not going to buy from you. And if you have no discount, eBay shipping discount going to the buyer, if it's just whatever that label is without the eBay discount, and you're making a little bit off the deal, well, I mean, it works out for you when you make the sale, but maybe you're hurting your overall sales is what I'm trying to say. So let's cut over to my computer here. I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about and what changes I've made, at least to these items, to help me improve my chances to sell these here pretty soon. So this is my shower drain that I'm selling, and this is the one the buyer contacted me about. It's a Neodrain 48-inch linear shower drain with the tile insert grate. And if I was to ever redo my bathroom, I would definitely utilize this style of a drain rather than the circular drain. It's just a lot more appealing, I think. It looks really good. But I digress. This is about shipping. So as you can see, I'm only selling this item for $36.99. It's marked down for $41.29 with my markdown sale. I don't know exactly where $41.29 came from. But as you can see, shipping on this is $65.36. Now normally, this defaults to you. So I think where I'm at in Vegas would be showing up a lot cheaper. But what I like to do is if you go click on see details, and by the way, this is what your buyer sees. So they're seeing that this item is going to be well over $100, and the shipping is almost close to double what the price of the item is. That's going to turn off almost every buyer. And so if I go to click see details, I like to put in this case, a Florida zip code. I'm not sure exactly where 31752 is, but that will give me, when I'm putting these together, when I'm actually putting my listings together, and after I'm done launching the listing, by having this sort of in here as a last search zip code, then it'll pop up usually on any other ones when I'm looking at the listing. So I'll get a sense of what the actual worst case scenario is on the shipping. Now that's my zip code here, and I'm going to see that normally, even locally, look, locally it's still quite high, $40.65. So that here is why I'm not selling this item, and I've got two others just like it. They're different models, and they're pretty much the same dimensions. So if I go back to 752 is the code that I like to use just to double check my work, and I'm looking at the price at $65.36. It's way too high. So I have FedEx Ground, FedEx Home, depending on if it's a commercial or a residential address. So I'm going to go into this listing. I'm going to scroll down, and I have it as calculated FedEx Ground. As you can see, actually it's 51 4x4. So in this case, I'm going to try Ground Advantage. Now, ever since summer, when Ground Advantage was introduced, it's changed the game for a lot of people. And for me, this is one of those examples, because prior to the summer, I was just like, sorry, I can't ship it priority mail because eBay likes to charge a surcharge for items over, I think, 30 something inches. So this would have been expensive with priority mail or FedEx or UPS. So I'm going to revise this. So all I did was change my shipping policy from FedEx Ground to Ground Advantage, and I have a calculated policy for each one that calculates the dimensions and the weight. So let's take a look. If I go back to the item in question, if I can find my item in question, let me go back to it here. Okay, here it is. So I go back to the item in question at $36.99, and guess what? Look, guys, $21.82 it comes up, and that is to this zip code. And if I go to my current zip code, you will see that it's actually $16 rather than 40 something dollars locally. And then going back to the Florida zip code, which is sort of my worst case scenario as far as the cost of shipping, you'll see that it's only $21. That's a big, big difference. 65 to 21. And now I'm pretty sure that I'm going to sell these grates here, the drains that is, within a week or two now that I've fixed this problem. So hopefully this will illustrate to you the importance of, if you're using calculated shipping, that you need to make sure that you have the lowest rates amongst all your available options that you have to you as a shipper. So I know I'm not alone on this. I know that I'm not the only one that uses calculated rates for the larger items, and I have the other shipping policy set up with my Ground Advantage. And I know that I'm not the only one that's maybe thinking in my mind that, you know what, FedEx is going to give me the best deals almost all the time. But when it comes to irregular size packages, it's always possible that your go-to, like for me at FedEx, may not be the best way to get the best price to the buyer. And I think now more than ever, buyers being price sensitive, a lot of buyers searching by price. These shower drains will never show up if I have FedEx as an option, if they're using that method to search, because we're talking over $100. By simply changing from FedEx to Ground Advantage, it went down by like 42, 45 bucks, something like that. That's huge, guys. And how many of our items are overpriced, not with the price of the item, but with the shipping itself? And that is the problem with the set it and forget it model. Now, that's not to say I don't look at my listings, but I was just oblivious to the fact that the price was so high as compared to other items. So when you get in and start doing your research like you should on slower selling items, finding out why your competition's selling theirs, but you're not, you're going to find out that, wow, I'm competing against people who are selling this item for like 60, 70, 80 bucks free shipping. What makes you think that you're going to sell this item at $100 and something with a calculated shipping model, because you're charging just way too much? So I want to know what you guys think down below. Let me know, maybe I'm not alone. I don't think I am. But maybe if you do use calculated shipping, it's a good idea to get in there and find out exactly what your buyer is seeing and put in the worst case scenario. So if you're on the East Coast, put in a West Coast address. If you're on the West Coast, put in an East Coast address. Now, I think the best place to sell in the country, ideally, is sort of in the middle, in the Midwest, because your rates are pretty much normalized from one coast to the next, and you're not affected so drastically as someone on the East or West coasts. And it could certainly make a difference, guys. We're talking maybe you only have a handful of these kind of items in your store, but if none are selling because your shipping is making the cost too high, that can make a big, big difference in your bottom line. But figuring this out, it takes time. You got to put in the work. Other than listing, you got to look at your listings, and hopefully your buyers will even tell you. But this is another example of how flipping ain't easy. And I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you very soon.